All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another review, and this time we are doing Kingdom of Heaven 2005. But there's a catch. This is the director's cut, and it was recently in theaters for one day only. It was even one time only, the 6 o'clock time that me and Quentin went to. I'm not sure if they had it in the UK. Did you ever find out if they had it in the UK, Craig?
I think I checked. I think it might have been. I'm sure I checked it, but I can't remember. I only checked my my very local cinema, and they don't get everything. So, but I think it was off the top of my head, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, okay.
It's not how I
Uh,
watched it.
But this is a movie from 2005, directed by Ridley Scott, written by William Monahan, cinematography by John Mathieson, edited by Dodie Dom. Dodie Dom. That sounds like a gangster from the 1950s. Dodie
Dodie
Dom.
Dom, like out of Chicago
Hey,
though.
Yeah,
hey,
Chicago.
It was
Um,
released in the UK, by the way, for May 14th, so that is good.
so music is by Harry Gregson Williams. Distributed by 20th Century Fox. The release date was May 6, 2005, of the original cut, anyway. The running time was 144 minutes. The budget was $130 million. The box office return was $218.1 million. So, not really a hit, but
no.
not necessarily a failure. But this was a very ambitious film, so I think they did not get near the return that they wanted to on this one. We got a cast list here: Orlando Bloom as Balian de Ibelin, Liam Neeson as Godfrey de Ibelin, Eva Green as Sibylla. God, this cast list is so awesome. Edward Norton as King Baldwin, Jeremy Irons as Tiberius, David Thewlis as Hospitaller.
Some of these names
Hospitaller.
are going to be hard to pronounce.
That's that's
Yeah,
basically he's not mentioned. That white cross on his chest means the
he
hospital.
doesn't
So
have a name.
basically,
He's just
that's
a
what that, he was there to get.
lone.
He was there to give care, like to healer, basically.
Yeah,
So
Martin
hospital.
Soka says Guy de Luzig. God, I can't. I'm not even going to try that last name.
Yeah, Guy. It says guy, but they keep saying Guy in the films, don't they?
Ghassan Massoud as Saladin. Brendan Gleeson as Renaud de Chatillon. Michael Sheen as the priest. Alexander Siddig as Imad. We got some Game of Thrones appearances here. Nikolai Coster-Waldau as the village sheriff, and as I learned watching the director's cut, Godfrey's nephew. We got Kevin McKidd as the English sergeant. It was good to see Lucius Varenus again. And then at the very end of the film, we had an appearance from Ian Glenn as Richard the Lionheart. So, really good cast list here. This film is Kingdom of Heaven is set during the Third Crusade, and like nearly all of Ridley Scott's historical epics, is heavily fictionalized, as we should say.
Yes.
The story follows young Balian of Ibelin, Orlando Bloom, uh, who, while blacksmithing in France, meets his father Godfrey, who's played by Liam Neeson. Godfrey has returned to ask forgiveness from his son and offers to take him with him to the kingdom of Jerusalem, where he is a very important lord. Young Balian begrudgingly takes up the offer, and events unfold along the way to Jerusalem. And once we get to Jerusalem, we find the kingdom under threat by the king of the, I hope I'm saying this right, Ayyubid dynasty, and that is Saladin. I think they are referred to as the Saracens in the movie. I don't know where that word
Yes.
came from,
I
but
think it's a slur, basically.
okay. But yeah, I was all over the Wikipedia page looking for that word, and I didn't find it anywhere. So, but yeah, this was the director's cut, and it is quite different from the original cut in the theaters. So I'm gonna mention some things here that were different from the original cut. Uh, right off the bat, when I was watching this, it was the first 30 minutes of the movie is way different than the first 30 minutes of the original cut. There's so much more added in. There's characters that we never saw in the original cut. We actually get to go into the castle that land that Balian is blacksmithing is on, and we get updates from Jerusalem to find out about characters that are there, and we also find out more about characters that are around. The fight sequence in the woods between the Crusaders and the French noble lord or whatever
Yeah.
it is, that is a lot longer fight, and it is cut much different, and I think it's better. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
the first bit, I'm sitting in a theater and I'm looking over Quit, and I'm like, dude, this feels like a completely new movie because the first 30
Literally.
minutes was because the first 30 minutes of this director's cut, you could probably cut it down to 5 minutes in the original cut because we don't go in the castle. We meet Liam Neeson like right away, and it kind of just goes from there. And 5 minutes later, we're in the woods having the battle. So I thought it was very interesting and helped learn a lot more about the characters as we went on. It was God, I just can't get over that because I'm sitting in the theater. I'm like, I'm watching a new movie here. It was a good feeling. Did you guys?
Sorry, go on,
Something
Mike.
that I learned when I was watching, I watched a little breakdown video just because I have never seen the theatrical cut. This is the first time seeing the movie in general, and honestly, I probably won't ever watch the theatrical cut just based off of what I heard. But from my understanding, when the editor was approached with the idea saying, "Hey, we need a theatrical, we want the director's cut too," she was simultaneously trying to make two different movies. And throughout the entire process, she spoke heavily on the fact that this work we're compromising so much to make this for a theatrical run. She was not pleased with the theatrical release. But there is in that beginning stages where you get to see Orlando Bloom and his brother. You only get to see them apparently in the theatrical release for maybe 5 minutes on screen, like Brian was saying with some of the other characters as well. But I think that was such a crucial part of Orlando Bloom's character in this film. You really need to see the tension build up between the two brothers to see him break and to then stab his brother and understand why that happened. With them cutting that out in the theatrical cut, it probably wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense. It would have just made Orlando Bloom's character just feel like he kind of just raged out and killed his brother. It seems like the entire setup for this movie would have been shitty for the rest of the film had it not went the way that the director's cut
I think we
shows.
forgot to mention, by the way, that this is Captain Quintano's first time seeing this movie, and he saw the director's cut version of it, so he'd never even seen it
in theaters,
original
which is
cut before.
where Ridley Scott movies are meant to be seen as in theaters, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that as we go more into the film. But to see this movie in theaters was epic. I didn't know that there wasn't a Ridley Scott movie of this scale that I hadn't seen before. Beyond it, just ecstatic that I was able to see it in theaters. It was really an incredible experience.
Yeah, I saw the original, like the theatrical cut, like just shortly after it first came out, and it was a bit of a nothing film to me because it just had the general consensus I've heard from anyone I've seen talk about is it was a good idea, that didn't come to fruition. And then when they saw the director's cut, they went, "This is what it should have been. This is a good film." Like that's the general consensus I've heard from everyone. I couldn't remember any of that because you talk, it was like 2005 it came out. So I was just watching this. I was thinking it was just a really well put together film, just throughout the whole thing. And yeah, if they missed all that stuff at the beginning with like Michael Sheen just being an absolute bastard. Like I don't know what planet he was on, but he was completely like.
He wasn't. He was in medieval
unhinged.
France. People were fucking bored and pissed off and poor during that time.
Well, I did find out. I was watching something about this. That they didn't really have it any worse in Europe than they had it anywhere else in the rest of the world. It was just like that worldwide, unless you were seriously rich. That it was just life was just shitty.
Medieval times.
Well, I think the difference was in wealth. There were a lot more wealthier places in the world than Europe at the time.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
further, I think the further east you went, the greater the wealth got.
and not only that, you had the like you saw that in the cinematography, how it was just so blue and grey. It looked like a Zack Snyder film at the start, and then
It's funny that you mentioned that. Yeah.
and then as soon as they get into the Middle East, it's like all these vibrant colors, and
Yeah.
everything's just so much more vibrant.
Armor
Like,
made of gold or gold coloring.
yeah, just all even just showing the spices, it's like the reds and the yellows, just totally different tonal palette
Yeah.
on there.
It's
But
also like desert land too, so colors I feel like are going to stand out more. But I totally see what you're saying there.
I'm going to talk
yeah, I
about
mean,
the things that are different from the original cut a little bit here. I did talk about the first 30 minutes of the movie and how it's basically expanded the first 5 minutes of the original cut, but I can't stress it enough because there's more characters in the first 30 minutes and the roles are different. There's a character, Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who plays Jaime Lannister in Game of Thrones, but he's just labeled as the village sheriff. But we find out at that dinner in the castle and later on, because they added more dialogue to it, that he is actually Godfrey's nephew. So that also means that he's the son of the lord that's sitting in that castle, which is that's a big deal. That's the heir to the lordship there. So
That gets killed.
things like that. We actually do see the lord, who ironically is played by another Game of Thrones castmate. He played Craster in North of the Wall in Game of Thrones, but he's Godfrey's brother. And then, of course, they expand on Michael Sheen's really bitch ass priest character quite a bit. And then there's another character in the group of Crusaders that I believe he gets shot by a crossbow. He's the first death in the
In the
forest,
neck.
but he is completely cut out of the original cut. Also, the gravedigger guy, who he ends up showing up at the end of the film, he is completely cut out of the original cut. So there's more characters, more dialogue, and also like we find that the relations between other characters. Like I had no idea that Nikolai Coster-Waldau's character was Godfrey's nephew. That was wild
The
to me. So
character
it
development
completely
is
changed the
unbelievable.
dynamic in the first 30 minutes of the movie, and I thought it was excellent.
yeah,
There's
a lot
other
more world
things.
building.
Yeah, there's other things too that are different from the original cut. Guy is a lot more brutal and sadistic in this cut. They kind of just expand on that a little more, even though he's kind of a one-dimensional villain. They do expand on it more. He bangs a random chick. What else does he do? I think the executions that he pulls off are more brutal. Like when he stabs the guy in the throat.
Yeah.
He's like, send Saladin this message. Stabs him in the throat. In the original cut, he just stabs him in the throat, but in this one, he actually stabs him in the throat and then cuts his fucking head off.
Yeah, that's Ridley Scott for you, man. He's pretty gruesome in a lot of his films.
Another difference here, there are probably there's like a dozen scenes that are longer. They expand on the dialogue a little bit. A big one is Sibylla's son is a significant part of the plot in the director's cut. In the original cut, Sibylla's son is just cut out. You don't even know she has a son, and it was a pretty big plot point in the director's cut. Some of the death scenes are longer, like we mentioned, and also I think is a pretty big one. The final fight between Guy and Balian, which that was the one out of, other than maybe the first 30 minutes that are completely different. But the final fight between Guy and Balian, I was watching that and I was like, why in the fuck did they cut this scene out? This is an awesome fight. And I like the ending because it really it doesn't, it lives up to Balian's character and him being like, I guess,
Honorable.
or honorable and overall of the death and destruction that's going on. But yeah, those were the main key differences, and they were, for me, they were welcome and I enjoyed them. And I agree with what you said earlier, Craig, with other people that you've talked to. I saw this and I was like, why wasn't this the original version of it? Yeah, it's longer, but even the original cut was like 2.5 hours long, and I remember thinking like, wow, this feels like rushed in some areas. Like,
Yeah.
so, I don't know what's going on here, but now I know why. And this director's cut should have been the one that was released. And I think if it was, then
It had done
people
a damn
would
sight
have.
better.
Yeah, I think it would have done better in the box office returns, and it would have been
Because the reviews would have been better, like hands down.
way better.
The mo-
Yes.
I just,
the more
from my point of view, like, I just don't understand. Like, if a director has a movie and an idea set in mind for a film, I hate when studios get involved to the level that they do, in the sense of, oh no, we gotta make this. Trust the fucking director. You hired a director for a movie for a reason, right? Trust him in the sense of letting him do his thing. Trust that people are going to go to the movie theater and watch a 3-hour fucking long film. You know, a couple years prior, we had, I mean, it's the same thing with the extended editions of Lord of the Rings, but let the film be what it's meant, what it's supposed to be. I think these studios getting involved is just fucked up, man. What?
I don't know. It's going to be 1-2 with this, and I don't want to like talk about this
Oh, extended edition
for more than a
Lord of the
minute.
Rings.
But the extended, I think the theatrical versions of the Lord of the Rings are better. The extended versions are for the Lord of the Rings nerds.
I think that they did it better. Like, I think that there's ways to do it. I think, like, growing up, I saw the Lord of the Rings films. Just a quick little thing. I saw them, you know, the theatrical releases. And then as I got older, I saw the extended. I could watch either film and have a great time. That's not true for this film. This film, from what I understand, the
You've
theatrical
never seen
run,
the original, though. That's the thing.
well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I just said, from everything that I've
from
heard,
what I understand.
and then
Yeah, but
also watching
you wouldn't
videos.
know until you've seen it. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but at the same time, I'm a huge sucker for like character development. I feel like is very needed in a film. And from this breakdown video that I kind of was watching last night, I think I sent it to you too. But it explains how so many characters, a testament to what you're saying, are just, they don't have enough screen time, and it really just doesn't add any weight to the film when certain things happen, because you just don't have enough time with them. You don't learn these characters. You don't even begin to understand them before they're either dead or not even involved in the film anymore. So a lot of the shit in this film would have been weightless had it not been for some of these characters developing.
Yeah, I mean, it was at the beginning when you see Balin kill his brother, and then basically sort of flee to meet up with go and meet up with his father and go to Jerusalem. His brother had said, "If you go to Jerusalem, then all your sins are absolved." And apparently, that was something that the Pope had said, like as a sort of decreed that even if you die on the way there, you will still, you will still be absolved of all your sins. So the fact that he, in his rage, he killed his brother, and then, right, I'm going to go to Jerusalem, I'm going to get my sins absolved, and also because his wife had committed suicide, you see her burial at the very start of the film, try and get absolution for her as well. So that was his sort of main drive, and apparently that the Pope was just saying any shit to make them go, like anything like that would drive them to go on the crusade.
I don't doubt it. Pope said some fucked up shit back in those days.
Yeah, and
They still do.
One thing
They got to be much more careful about it now, though.
Yes.
One thing I thought was interesting, just regarding Balin. So when I was looking him up, so he was his backstory is completely fabricated. He was born in the Holy Land. His dad wasn't called Godfrey. His dad was the Baron of.
You're talking about the real character?
The real guy. Yeah, so
Okay.
he was a noble. He was a knight. He was sort of brought up to be a warrior from the get go, and he had an older brother who was the Baron of. What's the place called again?
Iberlin.
Iberland. Thank you. Yeah, so before he became the Baron of Iberland, his brother did for 20 years. He had an older brother who did for 20 years as well. So, but he wasn't this
Blacksmith.
orphan blacksmith who then his
And he
father
kicked
comes out
out
of
Mel
nowhere.
Gibson to do it. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Syphilis will be easy in this one.
Oh, well, wait till we get to Baldwin. And also
that'll be
Baldwin, his son. There's some time dancing regarding Baldwin. What happened with Baldwin? Because he was dead before a lot of this stuff happened. But he did it. His his nephew, his sister's son, who became Baldwin the fifth after the one who died. The one with leprosy was Baldwin the fourth, and then that's accurate, but it's not accurate in the time in the real lifetime, time scale of what happened with all these events. He died. They died a lot before this, like 4 years before this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a very. Ridley Scott's not known for historical accuracy.
Nah.
So
He's known for
anytime
making...
I'm watching and I love most of his films, but anytime I watch any of them, I'm like, nah, didn't happen. But as long as you give me a good story, I'm happy. Now, where should we go from here? Let's do scores. I want to hear Quentin's score first because this is his first time viewing this. So,
Yeah.
Quentin, take it away.
So this movie, never heard anything about it, didn't know it existed, which is so strange because growing up, Braveheart, Patriot, Lord of the Rings, like Gladiator, this shit is all up my alley. So for there to be a film like this that I had never seen was kind of a surprise to me or never heard of. I love this movie from start to finish. The surprise faces that you get to see throughout the film. I felt like every 2 seconds I was looking over at Brian like, oh my God, that's, and then you would hear a voice from a character who was in makeup and beards and stuff. And I'd be like, I know that voice. And Brian would look over and he'd say, yeah, that's Khaleesi's side bitch. What's his name?
Jorah Mormont.
Yeah, Mormont. I mean, it was just the cast alone is something to be praised about this film. Ridley Scott has just stood the test over time with actors that either want to work for him or the people that he can get to work with him. But the cast in this movie was exceptional. I did have one problem. That would be Orlando Bloom. I've never viewed him as a spectacular actor. I think he did fantastic in this film as it went on. But during the early parts of the film, I thought that his character was a little bleak, a little dry. But as you go through the film, you begin to realize that there's reasons for that. It tells you right off rip. I mean, the man is struggling with deep depression, this, and that. And as the film goes on, we get to see his confidence grow. But his character is always true to himself, and he always stays the same with his own moral grounds. Even when the power of the vagina is involved, he stands the test of the pussy. His character was great. I don't know if I could see anyone else in this role, but I just felt like I could have still gotten a little bit more out of Orlando Bloom. I felt like he had a lot of potential to maybe show the world that he was better than maybe others think him to be. But as the film overall, I thought the storyline was fantastic. I told Brian when we got out of theater, I found hints of Gladiator in here. I felt like I had just watched an entire season of Game of Thrones, and like the best season of Game of Thrones, but it was packed into 3 hours. And I absolutely loved it. I told Brian when we left the theater, I said, this is a 10 off rip in my head. And I've had a day to digest it. Even after taking an exam today, I was still thinking about the movie in my head as it was going on. I fucking adore this movie. It is up there with Gladiator for me. I'm giving this movie a 10. I think it is an absolute masterpiece. I cannot wait to watch this movie again. I'll probably end up watching it this week with my wife. The beginning, some people may think that it's long, but I think it was just perfect in every sense. Small things here and there, like the mother killing the child, that Brian had brought up to me after. I'm like, yeah, there's maybe a different route you could have went. But also, this woman has just been through so much grief having to watch her brother go through this with his life. Some could say it was selfish or selfless. I think you could take both angles there. So little small things that I think could have been done differently in the film. But overall, I don't really have any huge problems with this film. Maybe it'll end by the end of maybe that'll change by the end of this podcast. But I love this film and every part of it. I'm gonna give this movie a 10, man. Masterpiece.
High praise for Fresh
Masterpiece.
Eyes. Very interesting. What do you say, Craig?
Mirror a lot of what you just said there. I didn't find it as blowing away as you did yourself, but I still loved it. I love period pieces. The fact that it is mostly historically accurate, or the things that happened, but maybe just not the way that it's told in the film. The fact that the siege of Jerusalem, it probably looked like that, but there's things like the battle towers wouldn't have happened.
Siege towers.
Siege towers, yeah.
It was a better Helm's Deep. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, at least that would happen in Helm's Deep. Where are the trees? It would be way too much of a pain in the ass to build. The amount of towers they had. No,
I want to say something, but I'm not going to.
Well, the Helm's Deep never happened. Is that what you wanted to say?
No, I was going to say that where are the trees? They come to life and ruin the end of the fucking movie. The fucking Ents. Oh.
The Ents are great, bro.
Anyway, sorry.
I interrupted. I'm sorry, Craig.
I think I will definitely watch this again. The cast, I will. As a story, I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8.75, and that is because of the cinematography and the cast, and like the historical part of it. The cast is bloody brilliant. It's, I mean, I don't buy even like the be half brothers, Michael Sheen and Orlando Bloom being half brothers. I wouldn't really buy that as much as I wouldn't have bought his dad and his brother being brothers at all. Brendan Gleeson is, oh god, he's on the Muppet meter in this one. He's off his fucking nut. He is absolutely I don't think I've ever seen Brendan Gleeson play a normal character except for that
in the jail cell.
Yeah, what was that?
Doing his little dance.
It was perfect.
The only normal character I've ever seen him in was 28 Days Later. There's like the zombie apocalypse film, and that's like the only time I've ever seen him actually be a normal guy. There's always something to him, even in that Banshee.
And that's in a zombie apocalypse film. That's saying something.
It's in a zombie apocalypse film.
Yeah,
completely slice of life film like Banshees of Inisherin. And he still is like, dude, what are you doing? You're cutting your fingers off. What is wrong with you? There's always something wrong with his characters.
And he always pulls it off, though. He's fucking awesome.
He does.
I adore that, man.
Or Edge of Tomorrow, where he's just this bastard of an army general who makes Tom Cruise go, there's always something unhinged about him. He's off his fucking rocker.
Troy, don't forget about Troy. He's King Menelaus.
Yeah, exactly, man. But no, the cast is fantastic. I'm giving it an 8.75. Just because, again, I've said before, me giving something a 10. Are you two having a private conversation? I can't see.
No, I'm looking at the cast just so I can get my names right here, bro.
The names are tough. The character names are tough.
No, I just need to know the actors' names. Yeah. Marcus, thank you.
Type like Jeremy Irons, just really one of his commanding performances. Fantastic. Yeah, I completely agree with you about Orlando Bloom. I can't think of who would replace him with, but he is just so
it's too pretty. Like Russell Crowe wasn't. Russell Crowe still had a sense of grudge. Like Orlando Bloom is too pretty.
You can't tell Russell Crowe. You can tell what's going on, what he's thinking, just by the look on his face. Orlando Bloom just has this one. He's just got one look. It's like whenever you see, some really shitty actor, and it's like it says like happy, confused, sad, and it's just all the same picture. There's a lot of that going on with him.
100%.
Couldn't gauge what he was saying. But yes, for his. I'll give it a 6 for Muppetry. 3 of that is for the historical inaccuracies, and the other 3 is just for Brendan Gleeson. He was great.
I didn't give a Muppet rating, so super quick. I'll give it a 5. I think it's like in terms of the historical accuracy, it's Ridley Scott being Ridley Scott. You just was trying to make a good story. So I'll give it a 5, I think, as well. Some of just a couple of corny parts. Oh, Muppet rating, definitely. No, we'll bump that up to a 6. There were a couple of very weird shots where the camera on a character that didn't matter at all, wasn't a significant moment, but the camera would just go right up to their face, just like this. And I'm like waiting for some like very intense moment to happen or like something to happen. And it's just like this weird shot that was for no apparent reason. And like nothing happens. And like, we never see that character again. Just a couple quirky things, but low Muppet rating. I'll give it like a 5 or 6. 5.
One thing I completely forgot to mention, and I don't know why, my favorite character in this, far and away, because Brendan Gleeson's unhinged, but Saladin, I thought this guy is so interesting. If they did a Saladin film, because I went through his wiki page, and this guy was, I've heard so many times historians say he was renowned, like respected by all of his enemies as such a good leader. And just reading up, if they did a Saladin film, I would have watched the hell out of that.
He should.
The actor was great too.
He was the leader of a massive empire of the day. So.
Yeah. I can't remember what he was. It was like not the emperor of Egypt, but he was. He was
the Sultan of
Sultan of Egypt. He was the Sultan of Egypt. Thank you.
Yeah, but his empire encompassed like parts of Iraq, Syria. The Holy Lands, obviously, Egypt and Libya, and parts of what today would be the Arabian Peninsula.
Yeah.
So
it was brutal, but also fair. It's a weird dichotomy with his character, but that wasn't his character on film. That was the man.
Wow.
And
yeah, but I agree with you. I actually wish like we saw more of Saladin in the movie.
The actor, we need to give him credit because I thought he was incredible when he was on screen.
He's an actor from Syria, by the way, too. He's
Ghassan Massoud.
Actor. He's been in a couple of Ridley Scott films now.
Ghassan Massoud. He's fucking fantastic. Favorite character of mine was David Thewlis, Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, David Thewlis. Yeah, he's.
Oh my god.
This was probably his best performance I've seen him in.
He was so good in this.
And the fact that he was, when they were talking about religion, that speech he gives about religion, and he see how many fanatics he's seen commit, horrors in the name of religion, but holiness, and how he views them differently. But also the fact that Saladin. At the end, when he allows all the Christians go, he brings in real life. He brought in all the allowed loads of Jewish people who were especially persecuted. He let them back into Jerusalem. It was because it's all like one Abrahamic God. It's the same Abrahamic God. They just view different, look at it through different lenses. But the fact that that's what he wasn't prepared to slaughter all these people. He for a bit of for what was it? Not taxation, but I can't remember what the bloody term is now. Tribute, but as a tribute. But instead of charging them ridiculous amounts to escape, it was such a low number, and he let the poor people who couldn't pay. He let a lot of them go free. It's just an incredibly they didn't really have to do anything with his character to make it that character, but just have it on scene. It was loved it. He actually has my favorite line throughout the movie. Saud, am I saying that right, guys?
Saladin,
thank you. Saladin has my favorite line, and I'm happy Brian caught my attention and pointed it out, but it's the last part of that battle.
You were about to talk. Talk over the best line in the whole fucking movie. Yeah,
literally, when Orlando Bloom asks him, and he says, "What is Jerusalem worth to men?" I think is what it was. And Saladin,
no, he just says, "What is it worth?"
Yeah, and he says, "Nothing." Starts walking away, and everything. I was like, That was
Yeah.
crazy.
Pretty much
Best
sums
line
it
of
up.
the fucking movie, dude.
Yeah. All
And
right.
one last thing before I let Brian. I will let you speak, mate. I can't. The guy that's Orlando Bloom gives Ibelin to. Is it Ibelin? I believe he gives him.
Yeah.
It's the guy from the start of Kingsman, the one who peels the tape
No way.
off Mark Hamill's mouth. That's all. Like every time he was on screen, that's all I could think of when I was looking
That's
at him.
hysterical.
It's like, 62 Delmont. I could not think of anything else. It was distracting
too
a little
fucking
bit,
funny.
but that's a me problem. Right, sorry, Brian. Go on, big guys. We cut you off so many times.
There's so this movie, I'd say the original. I liked the original cut, but I recognized its flaws. So when I was going into this, I would have given the original cut a 6 out of 10. This director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven is definitely an improvement for me. I'm going to give it an 8. This movie, and man, I had never got the chance to actually go see this in theaters. So this is one where I was like, oh, I'm actually going to see this on a big screen again. And I forgot how fucking beautiful this fucking movie is.
Gorgeous.
Ridley Scott, as far as like painting a picture and the cinematography and everything, it's some of his best work, I think, in making a good looking film, and especially with the wide shots, whether it's armies or just the backdrops, the background, like some of the shots in the port of Messina, which is in Sicily, I believe, which is the port they take to go to Jerusalem by boat. Some of the shots there, I was like blown away looking at. I was like, man, how did he pull this off? So I was highly impressed with how it looked. And this is a 20-year-old film, by the way. So it looks like, remember, we saw, at least, I mean, Captain Quintano did, we saw Revenge of the Sith 2 weeks earlier. Which movie do you think looks better?
Oh, easily the second film,
Kingdom of Heaven.
Kingdom of Heaven.
I was like, wow, it looks like it improved. It looks so good. So
Well, the CG looks better than CG nowadays. Like the CGI in this film was exceptional.
Bananas. It was bananas, as Gwen Stefani would say. But the the music is fantastic.
How did I not talk about the music?
Yeah, the music. I knew going into this, Quentin was going to love the music.
Music is a 10 if we can give a rating for that. Music is a 10.
But the first 30 minutes I absolutely loved because it basically felt like most of it I had never seen before. It's just to highlight Orlando Bloom a little bit. I don't have a problem with his performance in this. I know he's not really known as like a good leading, maybe not a good actor, but a good leading actor. I don't have a problem with how he looks. His character felt like it kind of felt like, even though it came out before this, but it felt like Jon Snow a little bit. Anybody get that vibe with him?
Yeah, me and you. I think I mentioned
guy,
to you that
stoic, but like kind of a reluctant hero in a lot of ways.
Yes, he's the bastard.
Also a little legitimate son. Yeah, it's got similarities with Jon Snow. Even the way he acts is similar to Kit Harington's version of Jon Snow.
Well, I guess we would have to give it. Yeah, but Jon Snow came out later, so maybe.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe he based it off this conspiracy.
Possible.
I think so. No, I'm just kidding. But Orlando Bloom, this is my favorite performance of his by a long shot. I do think at times it's it can be kind of a wooden performance, but I think it fits with his demeanor and I like his performance. It's hard for me to say anything bad about it. Would I pick him as leading guy in something like this? Probably not, but it came out all right in my opinion. My favorite character in this is definitely Saladin. I want to see more of him. I want to see more scenes between him and his lords and underlings that he has, because there is a little bit of conflict there as well, but they don't really explore it that much. So even today, I guess a good complaint would be I want to see more of him.
Yeah.
And I really liked if it wasn't him, it would be Alexander Siddig's character, Imad, who is the lord that we don't know he's the lord in the beginning, but he's the one who finds Balian once his ship crash lands on the shores of the Holy Land there, and then he has the fight with his servant. But we think he's the servant.
Yeah, his character was great too.
His character's awesome, and again another complaint. I want to see more of his character. So those are two characters on the Muslim side that I really wanted to see fleshed out more. So it was nice. It's nice seeing some of the other actors as well, who I've come to know and love over the years. Kevin McKidd is in there briefly. So is Ian Glenn at the very end as Richard Lionheart. I love Kevin McKidd. Anytime I see Lucius Farinas from Rome, I fucking love that guy. He's awesome. But yeah, downside of this movie, some of the story, it's not the historical inaccuracy that bothers me. It would probably be that these characters are not more careful, in the sense that it's feudalism and like almost every character is making decisions and moves that are either risky or you would not even imagine that they would make that in real life. Like, so Balian shows up, and then immediately the king is taking his advice. If I was the king, I wouldn't care if I had, weeks to live. I'd be like, who the fuck is this runt? Like, why should I listen to him? You got your hand raised? What is that? Go ahead.
I'm interrupting. Let me ask you. Well, so his father, Liam Neeson's character, was apparently held in pretty high praises in that court, so to speak. The king was very interested in meeting his son. They sat down. They just had a good conversation. I think the king felt him out, realized that he was wise and had great morals. And at the end of a king's time, who else do you want in your corner than someone you can trust and that you can get a good feel for with strong morals? That's just how I would counteract that just a little bit. The king seems very calculated.
I can see what you're saying, but if a king is very calculating, you wouldn't come to that conclusion based on one conversation. You would have to demonstrate.
That conversation was pretty deep. And it wasn't just that. Remember, after he showed himself and he saw him on how he acted on certain occasions, that's when the king calls him over and says, what does he say to him when he's in his bed? On the outside bed area when the king calls him. No, the king calls him over. I don't think the king was as invested with him until that first initial battle that took place outside, where he stood by his people to not let the city get overrun.
Because he actually did the suicidal cavalry charge to save dozens or perhaps hundreds of
innocent lives,
innocents that were trying to flee to the castle. Yeah.
If
I'm
not
saying
mistaken,
based on that initial conversation, like after one conversation, I would be like, all right, I trust you,
I don't think he did until after that, though, remember? Because you don't see him and the king interact ever again up until that point where Balian defends his area and saves the innocents. Then after that is when the king calls him over and he exchanges more words with him after he's seen his character a bit more.
You don't put any like spies on this guy or like people over him to like make sure that he's actually going to run that place.
King was very young.
I could see both. I could see both sides.
Bless you, Quentin. You are far too trusting, my young son. If I was the king, I'd be like, I don't trust this motherfucker. Just showed up from France, and we didn't even know he was alive for 20 years or whatever, however old he is. I don't trust this motherfucker. So
the king is quite young in this as well, though, because
he's like what, 25?
It depends when this is supposed to be.
I don't know.
If it's when it's supposed to be set, he'd be about 25. He was 16 when his army defeated Saladin that was in 1177. So he was like, it was his army that defeated Saladin.
He's portrayed about 16 to 17 years old at the time of the events depicted in the film. Holy shit.
Well, he died in 1185. So he would have been, Christ, my brain's just switched up there. So he'd have been 24 when he died.
Interesting.
So he was young.
and full of the clap.
It says in the film he's depicted as being 16 to 17 years old, and then it talks about the historical. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but anyway, good. It was a good movie. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's good. I do like it a lot. I'm a sucker for big epic historical pieces. Even the bad ones I kind of like. I kind of even like Alexander, and that one's bad. But this was I thought it was a pretty big improvement from the original cut, I must say. I really enjoyed seeing this in the theater. Muppet rating, I'd probably give it a 5. Actually, you know what? I'll give it a 6 because of the fucking...
Yeah.
That shit kills me every time. Because that was in the original cut. But like, every time he's doing it, like, I just start dying laughing. I'm like, what is this shit?
That's what happens when his character doesn't kill a Muslim for more than a day. He just starts jigging out into weird dances.
Then I wonder what it does to Mel Gibson. There we go. Dude, that was the perfect layup from Quintana. Thank you so much. All right. Anyway, let's continue. There is a problem I have with the director's cut, though, and it's. Let me hear me out with this. So Sibylla's son, because she is cut out of the her son is cut out of the original cut of this film. In the director's cut, he's a pretty significant part of it because once King Baldwin dies, then her son becomes king. And then we find out through a couple of scenes that he can feel no pain, which implies that he's going to become a leper at some point in his life.
It's a thing of leprosy that's why people get burnt, because you lose your nerve endings, so you can't feel the pain. That's why he's holding the candle above. He does that bit. That's why people and you also kills you. It does kill your blood vessels, so that's why bits drop off you. That and a mixture of that, and you can't feel pain. So you end up getting burnt, stuff like that.
Right. But it's so because he has leprosy and she knows it, and I guess her I'm pretty sure her motivation was to not have him suffer like the way her brother did, I guess. So she ends up, so spoilers, folks, she ends up putting some kind of shit in his ear. I don't know what that was.
Cyanide.
I don't know what it was, but it kills him. So just to put this, I just want to make this clear. This young boy's mother kills him. And that's not what I have a problem with here. But later on, when all the big battles happen, and she has cut her hair, and now she's going to live a life with young Balian, and they're going to go off back to France and fucking make a new family. That's the part I have a problem with, because Balian throughout the movie has demonstrated that he's a very good and moral man. And apparently now, because of these events, he's going to go off and live a life with her who has just murdered a fucking child.
I told Brian
she murdered a child, and he's like, yeah, you'll be my new wife, sure. I have a major problem with this. Major problem. Now, if they had changed it to where she, like, tried to go off to another city to still be queen, because there's still cities that are held by the Christians, not around there, not just Jerusalem has fallen. But there, at the time of this, there's still other Christian cities around there that she's still technically the queen of in a lot of ways. So she could go to one of them, or she could offer, like, hey, here's my pussy. And he's like, dude, you just murdered your son. Like, you're a crazy bitch.
He does kind of brush it off nonchalant when she's like, yes. Or when he's first told it, he's like, yeah.
Yeah, and then later in the movie, he's like, do you still want to come live a life with me? Here, hold my hand, and then let's ride horses and prance.
Brian, how many times do I have to tell you? Pussy is power, bro. Whether it's a vampire.
Oh, God, don't start this shit again.
Dude, maybe
she killed her own son. What is she going to do to their kids?
His balls extend so far, but he just went, look, no baggage. No baggage. Let's go, babe. Let's ride up into the sunset.
Craig, I want to ask your opinion on this. So my view of her killing her son, I think it was selfish and also selfless. I think that she tricked herself into thinking that it would be a good idea to kill her son because of how selfish she was. When she is talking about her brother throughout this film, she was like, "No, I don't want to go see my brother. I can't stand to see him like this." And I think it's more so from the selfish side of I can't watch someone go through this again. That's so close to me. What are your thoughts? Do you think that that was more of a selfish? Do you think it was a bit of both that were kind of in play, or do you just think she really just wanted to end this early for her son? Both of your opinions.
I agree with you mostly on that. I also think, though, that Jeremy Irons says a line to her because they were saying the rumors are starting to spread and cut off the heads of anyone who whispers. And well, if the king is seen to be active, and she knows that it's not going to happen, and her son being that young, how many, like, just looking at, I'm just thinking ancient Rome, because that's the main source you can think of for things like this. How many children that were in line of succession, or an actual king that were oft, there'll be so many people looking to, it'd be such a target, and the fact he's got leprosy, the fact that he's also going to have to do that, and it's all going to go downhill so quickly, and something worse could happen. Even we talked about Game of Thrones.
You're thinking like partially like it's the kingdom itself that is also could fall.
Not necessarily the kingdom, but just that the people would turn on him. It would be such an issue.
Because it's a sin to have leprosy, right, or something.
It's seen as what do they call it? The Muslims see it as God punishing their vanity.
Okay, yeah.
And obviously, it's Muslim, Jewish, Christians who live in Jerusalem. So it would have been such a. It could all go so horribly wrong. And even like mention Game of Thrones, Cersei at the end, where she's got Tommen, and they think that they're going to get captured, and I can't remember if it's a dad who walks in, but she sat there and she's got whatever that poison. What I can't remember. There was a poison. They had a name for. They kept using it throughout the show, but it's been that long since we've seen it. I've forgotten.
For their assassination.
She's about to give him it, so he doesn't have to go through any of what they would do to him. And then, like, she's maybe like foreseeing something like that down the future.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, also the fact that she doesn't want to see, as soon as the physician who's been poking the needles into his foot, then just gives her that look, and she just breaks. And when Tiberius tells her, if they saw the king active, she flips there's a train, she just completely flips it, and she's losing it.
Yeah.
So she's trying to think she's probably trying to think what would be best for Jerusalem, because she then sort of gives herself, even though she's married to him, gives herself to Guy. So
we still didn't see her tits in this film. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the one way it wasn't like Game of Thrones. But against everything, like her heart wants, like everything against every fibre in her being, she does the one thing she doesn't want to do, and and agrees to be, make him her king, because she was queen regent, because there was no more males in that family line. That's when it fell on her to become the queen.
Yeah.
So that's why that happened. And it did really happen. That actually did really happen.
The kid with the leprosy, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not confirmed that she killed him, but he did die within a year of becoming king.
Oh, interesting.
So it's. I think it was one of those things where it was sort of heavily insinuated.
So I wonder if Ridley Scott actually chose to do a little bit more, or at least try to be a little bit more historically accurate, just with some different character switching and shit like that. Because I mean, even the way you guys were talking about Saladin, or I'm not going to get it right, but it seems like his character was depicted pretty accurately in this film, as well as the historical records that we have.
I wonder if he didn't.
Yeah, fair.
He's probably one of those historical figures that's renowned by all sides, but not super well known in the West.
Mm.
Probably because, why would we in the West highlight someone
A
from
Muslim.
the East,
Yeah.
who was considered a great man, kind of thing. I don't know, just my guess. I
That's
actually
fair.
think here's something I actually mentioned this to Quentin out of the theater because Quentin, you were telling me like how have I not heard of this? Like, why isn't this more popular? This
Oh yeah.
particular movie, and I put to you the something because I was thinking about it, and I remember saying this to you. I think it might have had something to do with, at least in the United States, but UK was involved in this as well. It's 2005, and there are wars going on, particularly in Iraq and Afghanistan at the time.
Yeah.
And this film, not wholly, but certain Christian characters are portrayed terribly in this film, and very brutal, while the Muslim characters seem to be much more benevolent and respectful. So, and I think that was that was not a popular move at the time,
No,
considering
especially not
tensions
after
were high with the wars and stuff. So,
it wasn't that far away from when the 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
Not many years
Yeah.
had passed. But I
well,
think
it's 2005. We're like smack in the middle
Yeah.
of like the worst part of the Iraq
Second
and
Gulf
Afghanistan wars, and the UK was involved in those as well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I don't know if there was any sentiment like that in the UK, but in the States, anyway, there was it was very ripe atmosphere for anti-Muslim sentiment at the time. So I think that could have possibly played a role in diminishing this film's popularity at the time.
Certainly wouldn't
At
have
least-
helped. It wouldn't have helped.
Am I onto something or am I crazy? I don't know. It's just
I
a thought.
when you said that, I was like, it was like a aha moment like that. That makes sense because I mean, I think I was also trying to wrap my head around. I'm not a big tomato guy with the Rotten Tomatoes, but when I looked up the movie just out of sheer curiosity, the movie got like a 30-something% of critics that enjoyed it. That's like extremely low, and even for the theatrical run that I've never seen, I thought that was crazy to be in the 30s because I've seen quite horrific films that somehow end up, super high up on the critic charts.
Like
Whatever
in the 90s, like the Last
Yeah.
Jedi.
like The Last Jedi at fucking 91%, bro. Like, what the fuck are they
Like,
smoking?
what movie did they see?
Or
man?
She-Hulk getting like 100% on fucking come
do
on.
Do I need to explain this to you two?
No,
They were
Go-
giving the right message.
No. Yeah, it's
we
the
know.
critics are bought. That's why you pay attention to the audience.
I've never,
yeah.
even when there wasn't, sorry to rip off Critical Drinker here, but the message. Even when there wasn't much of that, like 10, 15, 20 years ago or whatever the fuck, I still never trust the critic scores. I always go with the audience because the audience usually knows what's what. Now, I think the audience have missed a rare one here and there, but the critics miss it all the time. So I trust the audience way more than I trust the critics.
Also,
Absolutely.
I can see too, like sometimes when I see a high audience score, like the new Captain America movie, like I fucking watched that and I did not like it for any, and no part of me liked it, but there were some scenes that were really cool. And I noticed that fans were actually rating it pretty high. Not to go off topic, but super quick. Fans were rating it super high, and I wondered why. And I was like, well, it's because the last Marvel movies that have came out over the past 10 years have been fucking dog shit. So they got a glimpse of something that had an idea to be cool, and they loved it,
Yeah, I've heard
but
some
that's
people
it.
say something like, it's mediocre, and that's a good, like,
Yeah.
to aim for mediocre now is a win. And the fact it was they've all been bad films, but this was the best of the bad films.
Yeah, my point to this whole little segue that I just did was like, at least with the audience score, you can have an understanding of why they rated something the way they did, why the masses did what they did. With critics, it's like me and Christina will sometimes go to the movies just based off critics, and we walk out of the theater after and we're like, what the fuck did we just pay to watch? Like the Dream scenario with Nicolas Cage was, oh my God, it like 100%. Me and Christina were like, that was the worst fucking movie we've ever seen in our life. But it's just shit like that. Critics you can never trust, bro, ever.
also, if they give bad reviews, then they're not going to get the press like the press passes or like the tickets to go and get the early presses, so they can like then review the film ahead of time, that sort of thing. Because they just won't get it if they if they just shit on a Disney movie. Disney is not going to deal with them anymore. That's that's and there's someone who was in a former film critic said that's part and parcel of the actual job. You have to sometimes just give a good review to a bad film, just because you want to keep that keep that gravy train going, that you're going to have that access.
That's so shitty.
Oh, that's disgusting.
That's so gross.
How the fuck? Yeah.
Well, me and Brian were talking about Spider. Madam
that just
Spider.
really pissed me off. Not you, Craig, but what you said, like that just to know that that's out there and that's the scenario.
There's audio
for some of these critics. Like, I have to give this movie a good review just so I can hang out at the fucking champagne parties or something. Like that's fucked. I can't stand shit like that, man.
Just goes to show you can't trust them, and that's why I think so many film critics on YouTube are so popular, and no one really pays. The guys who still buy newspapers, they'll look at the bloody film reviews there and see what the critics say there. They're the ones who are going to go and see it. People who are into films are going to go on to YouTube and watch what people are saying about it, or look online, see what people say about it, and that's probably why you do get so many popular. They say Critical Drink. He's got like 2 million followers. Jeremy Johns has got like three.
Chris Struckman has had some issues that Brian actually has talked about with me. He's one of my favorite movie reviewers, and I loved his content until I found out some unfortunate shit about him, man.
He won't review films.
My favorites are the guys at Film Threat. Their channel should be massive.
I'll give him a sub.
It's Chris Gore, first off, like he was a part of like a series of interviews that just went massively viral that were mostly about franchise films. What's going on, Quentin?
I'm so sorry. I went to go subscribe to this channel that you were telling me about, and the video of Mel Gibson, the audio that I was playing you, I accidentally hit play on it, and it said those very specific words.
Okay.
And that's all I heard as I was trying to subscribe to someone's YouTube channel.
I'm glad it didn't play. I'm just glad it didn't play on our.
Oh my god,
here. That would have been all. Because then I'd have to mark it down. I would need a timestamp for that to take.
You said it's called Critical Threat is the name of the channel.
No, Film Threat.
Film Threat. Thank you.
Yes, Chris Gore. I have a very high opinion of, but I just love their because you know how a lot of YouTube channels focus on just like the big franchises, and even I do like the channels that point out like how terrible some of their decisions are and stuff. I appreciate it, but man, sometimes they just and I think Critical Drinker does this too. But man, they just hammer down on just the franchises like 90% of the time.
Good.
And I'm like, I want to know more about like, some of the low budget films that might be out there that might be pretty good. And Film Threat does that.
Very nice.
As much as they do the big franchise news stories and stuff. Star Wars, Marvel, and all the terrible decisions that they're making and stuff. But then Film Threat, the next video will be like, here's a movie that we saw that, its budget was like $200,000. And
wow.
it might be good. Is it worth seeing? Find out. Let's talk about it. So Chris Gore has been I believe he's been a film critic ever since the early '90s, maybe even late '80s or something like that.
Holy shit.
He's been around. Yeah, he's been around.
Like magazine at school.
Yeah, and their channel it's not just a YouTube channel, but it's a web. They run a film news website.
I see the link tr.ee Film Threat.
Yeah.
Oh,
so those
shit,
guys.
yeah.
So those guys are good. If you really want to break down, and if you love, I feel like this is an advertisement for Film Threat right now. But if you love talking the in-depth discussion, to really get to the core of the matter of some of the terrible decisions that franchises have made, Chris Gore goes deeper than anybody with takes that you wouldn't even think of. You know,
Yeah, he does.
It's not just the like anti-woke stuff that a lot of channels do. It's
Well, I already know I'm
a
gonna
lot
like
more
his.
to that.
I already know I'm
And
gonna
he's
like his
got great-
channel based off of his video that he dropped 5 hours ago. It just says Andor season 2. How do people like this?
They've got, and that's the other thing too. Their channel is. I'm surprised they only have like just over 100,000 subs. Like they should have 1 million. Like the work that like they have their intros and their thumbnails. Like the channel is just like for a YouTube channel. It's just beautiful. Like and I feel like I'm going to criticize Critical Drinker here a little bit. I love his channel. Don't get me wrong, but with him you get just a simple thumbnail and a simple title, and then it's a video of like grainy footage of whatever he saw or whatever he's talking about, 4 or 5 seconds at a time, and then he talks. And now it works. But I'm saying like Film Threat, like they dress their channel up and like really put some production behind it. And make it look really good, and I appreciate stuff like that. So anyway, check out Film Threat's channel if you haven't.
Yeah, and he gets on. Him and Alan have great rapport, and they do have differing opinions on films as well, and they just discuss it. They discuss it. They don't argue. They discuss it.
Exactly.
I like arguing
That's what we need more
sometimes.
of. I think we're going to
That's
argue
not-
whenever we get to Craig's anime movie.
Oh, I can't wait.
You don't even know what it is yet.
We'll see. No, I don't. But look. I'm going into it with an open mind. The guy you got to worry about is the guy in the middle here. He's. I think
What,
he's
he grew up on
determined to
Dragon
not
Ball
like
Z or
it.
something.
He likes
I
Dragon
thought
Ball
he
Z.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Z or
Yeah, but
Read the chat, boys.
I don't know.
yes,
Let's
I just
see,
read
yeah.
it. You-
God damn it! Anyway, back to Kingdom of Heaven here. So, is there anything that you guys did not like about the this version of the film that you think is worth bringing up,
Yes.
or is it just
Oh my
Man of Steel
God.
stuff? Because my big
That-
thing was Sibylla's son getting offed, and then Orlando Bloom being like, "Yeah, I'll still fuck you."
Not enough Liam Neeson. He served his purpose. I get it. It was perfect. But seeing Liam Neeson in a movie like this, like I could just watch fucking. I could watch him as Ra's al Ghul. I could watch him as this character. I could watch Liam Neeson all day long. I
I think that was the same year, by the way. Batman Begins came out the same year, 2005.
If that's correct, that's
Dude.
fucking insane. But just a
Good year for
testament.
him.
And I think it's a compliment, truthfully, because I don't think it's a bad thing about the film. I think that the more that we talked about Saladin, I started to realize, like, yeah, he was actually such a great fucking character. Certain characters that I wanted to see more of in the film, just as a testament to the film itself. They created such these great characters, and even if they weren't on screen for the craziest amount of time, you still are sitting there wanting more of them. And maybe it could be perceived as a downside, but I don't know, man. I think it's a testament to how fucking great the film was. Yeah, bad. I don't know. Something will probably come up. The farm. You had actually bought this up. How they kind of left him unattended to kind of do what he wants with this land. I thought that was kind of a relatively quick process on how he was just kind of implemented into this kingdom, so to speak, and he's just kind of able to do whatever he wants with this land. Granted, I think he had already made some allies by then, even though they're few. I don't know. I just felt like that whole process was a little quick. And then for him to be fucking, this, what was he, a lord? Guy?
Yeah.
When he was fucking his wife, like I don't know why, but maybe it's because I was seeing a lot of similarities in my own head with Game of Thrones. But I'm like, word should have gotten to this guy that his wife has been getting fucked by Orlando Bloom. Like she had been sleeping over this man's house every night. Like he seems pretty high up. He seems like he's got whisperers, like the bald eunuch in Game of Thrones, around every corner. I thought it was a little odd that romance went along as long as it did. Unless there was something that I maybe missed.
I think there was allusion to it. Like the alluded.
Well,
alluded
he
to
did.
it.
He did look at them when they were in the same thing, and he was like, kind of gave a glance, and I guess he did order them to get killed. I just felt like
No, because then he even talked. Yeah, because he even mentioned it.
He
And he was like, yeah, he was talking to his lady, and he was like, yeah, you and your little boyfriend or whatever. So he knew that his wife or his soon-to-be wife was getting railed. Yeah. I just don't think he really gave a fuck about her. He just wanted the power and the marriage that gave the power. Maybe he was a cuck.
Wouldn't surprise me if he seemed a bit weird.
Yeah.
Before going to what I didn't like, there was one thing I did learn about this. When he knights him, and then when Balian knights the man's servant, and then he slaps him.
Pimp slap.
And this is to remember it.
Yeah, pimp slap.
So
Quentin loves a pimp slap.
It's so great, dude.
Back of my hand. Right, no, so you've been dubbed a knight. Now, the word dub comes from a word, might be French, but
that's
Dubian.
That's dab.
That's dab.
You fucking quack.
Oh, my God. Youngsters.
That could be turning into a boomer.
Oh, God. No, and the slap, so it means to hit. The word Dubian means to hit. So when you've been dubbed a knight, that slap is being dubbed a knight. And it's to symbolize that is the last hit you ever receive without retaliation. That's the whole. That's why you get that hit. He says it's to remember that, but that's what.
Oh.
So that is an actual real thing. When you're getting knighted, you would get pimp slapped. So you got the.
That's interesting because I've seen quite a few films that's set during medieval times, and the only other one that I can remember where that they do that is what was the is it Outlaw King that it was on Netflix? It had Chris Pine as Robert the Bruce, and Stephen Delane plays Edward Longshanks, and his son. He's getting ready to send him out on a mission, and then right before he sends him out, he smacks him. He doesn't do it with his backhand, though. I think he does it with his gloves.
He gives him a little smack.
But the key phrase here is something that Craig said. He said, "Let that be the last blow you receive unanswered."
Yeah.
And
so if someone blows me, I have to blow them.
Well, no, you don't have to blow them. It depends,
You blow me, I blow you.
Don't you dare suck my dick, bro. I'll suck yours. I'll fucking do it.
You've got to return the favor, man. You can't be
so Sean Connery would have been great at knighting people, bro.
Oh,
well, he was a king.
Just give him a little smack.
He gave them loads of slaps. I bet he loved knighting people.
Let this be the last blow you receive unanswered.
Step on your knee.
Something
I did. It's not that. Something I didn't like about this film is the nasty fucking fuckface. Who's the jigging guy? What's the actor's name?
Brendan Gleeson.
Brendan Gleeson, dude. When King is like, yes, kiss the ring with his syphilis-ridden hand, and he's just like, and he's like shoving his face into it and kissing, and I'm like, bro, I was literally gagging in my seat at this.
Yeah, he was. I can attest to that.
Disgusting. That was bad. But that's Ridley Scott's
leprosy. Is that? Can you get that by doing that to his hand?
Well, I don't. Either way, it's just gross.
I don't know how you contract leprosy.
I don't think it's via contact, but they didn't know that, so that's why obviously they're bandaged to cover their.
How do you transmit it then? Because it's not. I don't think it's hereditary.
Yes, leprosy is contagious. It's caused by bacteria, microbacterium leprae, that is spread through close contact with the infected person. Transmission occurs when the respiratory droplets or contact with the skin lesions. However, leprosy is not highly contagious, and most people who come into contact with an infected person will not develop the disease. After making out with that fucking hand, though,
yeah, I would put good money on he's probably getting it.
Yeah.
But that man lived such a wild, shifty lifestyle.
Yeah, he already had syphilis.
He probably knew he was on his way out by the sword at some point soon.
Apparently Saladin in real life. So he'd been doing everything in measured manners. Like we were saying, he was ruthless, but he was also fair. And as much of a juxtapose that is. Apparently, when it's we don't know that she was killed in real life, but Saladin did asked for his sister back. We know she was kidnapped at least.
Oh yeah, what happened to her?
He killed her, but the implication is that he killed her. That's when the messenger comes. He says he asks for her head back and her body. No, asks for her body back, so they can bury her, or whatever the term was. They also ask for the head of him. Apparently, Saladin just went fucking scorched earth, and that's why they just went like, we are destroying this city, and the intent was just to kill them all.
That's a fair point, bro. I mean, how do you not after that?
But then they didn't.
But they made that true, and that did happen. Like that. There's no.
I think that was the only like really true part of the movie, was like they held out for so long and fought so hard in Jerusalem with like kind of compared to the fucking army that was trying to take the city, it was kind of like a skeleton crew, and that he was so impressed by it that he was like, all right, you've earned it, now get out, but I won't kill you.
Yeah.
Kind of
also, though, I mean, the Jerusalem are fucking tough, bro. I mean, that's to only have the narrow little way in after all your siege towers are down. Like that shit was crazy, bro. That whole battle.
Yeah, that's some Thermopylae shit. Yeah.
What do you mean? I don't.
Well, you got to go. You got to put a ton of men through a narrow thing.
Yeah.
You just block off the narrow thing. You can hold your own. It doesn't matter what the numbers are. So it's kind of it's a bad strategy to try to enter that way if it's defended well.
So something I didn't like, and it sort of did happen, but when he knights everyone, and I thought that is, I don't want to say Hollywood trope because you'd only see it in something like this, but you could see it coming a mile off when he got the one person to kneel and he knights it, and then he
kind of
that's a Hollywood trope.
I would say it was kind of corny. Yeah. I kind of agree with you on that.
Yeah, 100%.
What did actually happen? I'm sorry. I'm trying to make this a film review, not a history lesson.
I think it's good to have both.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a historical film, which is based in
Yeah. How do you not talk about the history?
This is probably one of the few times where your knowledge is more than mine on this one. So.
Oh mate, I had to look. I was looking this shit up today, and I was like, I am going to be reading up on Saladin. Like, I was looking for Saladin. I was looking for the bits related to this film. I'm going to check it.
I never. I know some about the Crusades, but not as much as I should, considering my love for history. But I always found the Crusades just to be just fucking depressing. You know.
Yeah,
I think most wars are pretty fucking depressing, Brian.
No, but I mean, no, they're horrifying. But like, as far as like researching them and learning more about them, like,
I see.
Based on like religious how it's all about religious differences. Yeah. Not all of it, but most of it. I just find that so awful.
What is Jerusalem? Nothing and everything.
Yeah.
Literally.
So when it's hard for me to like stay into it when I'm like, well, they're all there because like Craig alluded to, like they all basically worship just the same God, just they have different branches of it, and it's it's stupid in my opinion.
Can I be stupid to ask, what's the state of Jerusalem right now?
Well, Israel, I think they're doing pretty all right at the moment. Don't know about the neighbors.
Okay, I heard.
It's a touchy subject. I'd rather stay away.
Yeah. Let's stick
okay.
with
There's let's say, well, I mean, it's Israel, more in Gaza, but it's.
Oh, that's where all
like,
that is.
Jerusalem is
mind.
like it's mostly I think it's 100% run by Israel, but it's like 50% owned or something like that. I don't know.
I
really have to get into
all of that was taking place because I am very uncultured when it comes to this sort of shit. So forgive me. But now I understand. I get it.
I think it's ran by Israel, but it's like only like half of it is owned by Israel or something like that. I don't know.
I would be careful even saying thoughts on it.
The city in particular, I'd probably not be a good source of that because I don't know.
My sister's actually been there. She went with our religious education.
That's actually really cool.
Fun fact
that she's been there.
Christina has a cousin on her dad's side who is an architect. He'll build like some crazy building in China, But when we were speaking with him last, which was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, no, not even, maybe 3 years ago, he was working on a project in Jerusalem, but he said it was very, very tricky because when they're building, they're constantly digging up shit. And what they would end up having happen is they would end up stumbling up across like some crazy ancient or something special. It's like everywhere they would dig, all of their projects would be put on crazy hold because it would be some like amazing building or some ancient church or something of that nature. They basically were just saying that cities were just built on top of cities. So every time they were trying to do projects, their shit would just be halted for years. And then they would have to find a new site to try to build on. But I always found that very fascinating.
That happens a lot in very old cities. That happens a lot in Athens. I went there.
Makes
and
sense.
It was basically like if you dug anywhere, you'd find something that was the hotel that I stayed in Athens. At least because I stayed in 2 different hotels in that city. One when I got there, and then one on the way back. But the first hotel, the bottom of the basement floor of the hotel was the ancient Athenian walls, and they just
Get the fuck out of here.
built over it. Like the hotel from like the first floor up was the hotel, and then the basement was basically like a museum of part of the wall, the Athenian walls, and the shit that they found around it. So they had the wall basically like behind glass where they found it. Like you can't go in there and touch it, but you can see the walls, and
that was how it was when we went to Pompeii.
Pompeii, I believe, is the most what's the best way to word this?
Catastrophic.
The most preserved ancient Roman town there is because of what happened at the volcanic.
They're still uncovering more
stuff. Yeah,
there's
that's
a
where
giant
the
section.
mosaic is. Here, let me pull this up for you.
I probably have the real life, like the actual picture from when I was there.
This is the Alexander.
Yeah,
and this is a canvas art. Obviously, it's not the real thing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be living here. I'd sell this for like $100 million or whatever it's worth. But this is the canvas that this is based on, because it was found in Pompeii, and it was the mosaic that was the entrance to a rich Roman's house in Pompeii, and that's why it was so well preserved when they found it, because the volcanic activity from that eruption preserved all that stuff.
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing.
Like the pyroclastic blasts and like all the ash, it will just harden, which is what it did, which is how they managed to pour the molds in.
This is one of the houses that is in Pompeii. Brian, look at the color that is still on the walls. This is one of the houses in Pompeii.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I believe, Queen Boomer's been there.
Oh, no shit.
Wife. So, yeah, she went there before, and she said at the time, because Quentin, you could probably give us an update to this, but she said, because she hasn't been there in over 10 years, because she went when she was a teenager, but she said at the time you were not allowed to touch anything, and if you did, you were thrown out immediately.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what it is that you're trying to touch. I mean, everything is ancient there, from the fucking ground they are walking on, I think it's called basalt stones or something like that, or, thousands of years old. But you can't touch any of the paintings, nothing on the walls, because of how well they have been preserved from the ash that protected it. But something funny. So in Pompeii,
I can't see that.
Can you enlarge it?
Is that a dick and balls?
Yes, it is. Dick and balls. So in Pompeii, a lot of the artwork that would be on the walls, similar to kids nowadays, like growing up in school, I draw dicks on everything. There is still artwork made by children in Pompeii. And I have many pictures of drawn penises from children who were 2,000 years old. Like ancient children, but they would draw dicks on the walls, and that artwork is still preserved to this day, just like any normal kid.
They did.
Which is
the Romans did draw a lot of dicks on walls.
Yeah,
but the kids.
It wasn't the kids, just the kids, mate. It was like graffiti.
It was the adults. Sometimes it was it was used. They would draw dicks with politicians
Yes.
getting serviced by them. By the way, because that was their way of showing how upset they
Displeasure.
were with some of the decisions that the politicians were making, which is really, in a way, it's really cool that they did that. That was the way that they expressed their discontent with the political class.
People are gonna people. That's basically it, isn't it?
It was the
So
most
that's the best way to put it,
unbelievable
yeah.
experience. Just quickly, last little one I'll show. But just walking around Pompeii and just trying to imagine
That's amazing.
these buildings was like, it just felt surreal, dude. And this is like kind of more in the clear open area. But being told this history as this guy is kind of walking us through and telling us about every little detail down to who lived in this house or who they could assume lived in this house based off of just the shit that was on the walls. And like a great man lived here, a very wealthy man lived here because he had like he had a sauna. Like they had saunas and shit in Pompeii. Certain bathhouses, like their technology was pretty fucking advanced for being, thousands of years old. It's pretty incredible.
That's why after the fall of Rome, particularly the Western Roman Empire, I don't even know if they still use the term because I think it was like shunned for a while. But there's a reason why after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, there was a period called the Dark Ages. It was like a setback from the living conditions of people and technology.
Technological advancement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
what's the library? My wife is obsessed with this library of Alexandria or something. Yeah. Basically, just is lost in time.
It's
because it's just all of it was burnt
we don't
down.
know. We don't really know how much knowledge was lost. We just know that it was a lot. There was basically a lot of knowledge that probably would have made the Dark Ages a lot less dark if it was still around. But it was burned down by
Slightly
Christians.
dim ages.
What did you say?
The slightly dim ages.
Slightly dim ages.
The light didn't go out. It just went down a little bit.
No, and apparently
That was fucking funny.
I think it was supposed to be Caesar that brought it down. That was alleged to have burnt it down, but apparently that's not. There was a lot of different things that over time caused it to be lost. It wasn't just one big fire and just whoosh, it was all gone.
Gotcha.
There was a lot of things that contributed to the
Yeah,
loss
but
of
there
the
was a
information
big
there.
one that the Christians of the area that was the main one.
To AI I go.
Really fucked it up. Yeah.
But
I forget what year it is. I want to say like 400s or something, maybe 300s. Can't remember the time of it. What does AI say, Quentin?
Says, on his pursuit of Pompeii into Egypt in 48 BCE, Caesar was cut off by a large fleet of Egyptian boats in the
No,
harbor
that's not what you're looking for.
of Alexandria. He ordered the boats to be burned. The fleet was destroyed, but the flames spread to the city and the library. It is not known much of the library that was destroyed. This probably
That's not the one you're looking for. Type in library, the burning of the Library of Alexandria. Or the destruction of the Library of Alexandria. There was one that was really perpetrated by the Christians of the time. It's bothering me. I might look it up in a second.
Library of Alexandria wasn't destroyed in a single catastrophic event, but rather experienced a slow decline and eventual loss over the centuries. While a fire during Julius Caesar's siege in 48 BC may have damaged parts of the library, it is unlikely that it was completely destroyed in that time. Later, the conflicts, including the Palmyrian invasion and the imperial counterattack in the 3rd century AD, likely destroyed what remains. The Christian persecution in the 4th century, culminating in the destruction of the Sette Pirum, may have also contributed to the library's demise.
There you go.
That one's close. Yeah.
At least I wasn't wrong.
To what we're looking for. Yeah.
It's AI though, so it's gathering shit from everywhere.
But it's pretty much said what me and Brian had said. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Shall we get back to 1187?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I was talking about where he did the Hollywood trope. What actually happened was because all of the people had gone out with Guy, and that's when Guy and Reynald were kidnapped, which leads to a brilliant death scene that I think we all wanted to see happen. But there was no. I think there was either some sources said 2, some said maybe up to 12 knights were left, and they needed knights to, have the, take the troops out. So this troop would have their knight as the leader. And that's how it worked then. So the knights were each had their own battalion, if you liked.
Interesting.
So it was basically the higher ranking members, Christian members that were left in Jerusalem. He knighted, I think it was believed to be 60 of them, but he didn't just knight everyone in one mass going. He knighted up to 60, so they had troops that would, if they went into battle, they had the leaders that the people could follow in their troops. But the fact that he just did this whole big Hollywood, Neil, every man and boy who is able to, yield a weapon, and yeah,
I think it works for the film's sake, but it was a little corny. I'm in agreement with you there.
That was corny. I just didn't. You just saw it coming a mile away. As soon as he did the first one, you saw, you saw it a mile away. I didn't like that. I didn't like, but something I did really like. I want to talk about that Saladin death scene. Saladin killing Reynald, because he's just such an asshole, and everything about him going and attacking all the Muslim, the Muslim travelers, completely happened. He was just a maniac, and it's when they're captured by Saladin and everyone else is dead. He gives him a cup of ice, which obviously starts to melt, so he's got an ice cold drink.
Where do they get ice? Sorry, ADD. You keep going, and then we'll circle back to where the fuck did they get ice?
A mountaintop. It would be. I know that they did do stuff like that. Ice. What I mean, when you had ice cream in Italy, well before there was any sort of refrigeration, and it's not like Italy's known for its snowfall. It's all up on the mountains, so they'd have been probably sending their slaves up to go and get it, or people would go get it and then sell it as a commodity.
Okay.
So that would be my guess.
Yeah.
But he hands it to, so disrespectful. Guy hands it to Reynald, and then he takes a drink out of it, and he said he did not give that. I didn't give that cup to you, and he's just so disrespectful to him, and he wants Reynald's head, and he vowed to kill him himself. Apparently that's something he'd done, and then he does ice. So he slits his throat, and then he gets dragged outside of the tent, and then Saladin, he's just there, gushing blood out of his neck, and he just chops his head off, and it was just such a satisfying scene. I don't know what you two think about it, but that was one that really, really stuck out to me.
Oh yeah, I love it when a major piece of shit dies in a brutal manner in a movie.
Facts.
And it deserves
it's needed.
well.
I'm just looking up the AI overview here of how ice was gathered or whatever, and before the invention of electricity.
What does it got?
Before the invention of electricity and electric refrigeration, people relied on natural sources of ice and various techniques to preserve foods and drinks. They primarily harvested ice from frozen lakes and rivers during winter, storing it in insulated ice houses or pits to keep it cold throughout the warmer months. This ice trade was a significant industry for a long time, with ice blocks delivered to homes and businesses.
No shot. And this is back in the Crusade days?
Before the invention of electricity.
Oh, wow.
Some of it would have been then, but I know, especially in America, before freezers and fridges, people would get ice, basically that, and you would have people go around, just with a horse and cart, and they would have ice there, and people would have basically a sort of chest, cabinet, and
almost like a cooler.
Yeah.
Oh, here you go.
and it was like a sort of makeshift fridge freezer deal.
I have one specific to the region here. It's called Yakchals. It's YAKHCHALS.
I'm not going to try
It
to
says
pronounce
here,
that.
in some regions, particularly in Persia, which is nearby where this takes place,
Yeah.
a clever system called Yakchals was used. These were subterranean structures designed to take advantage of natural cooling. They often featured a conical shape and wind catchers to further enhance natural cooling.
Wow.
So that sounds
That's
pretty
interesting.
fucking sophisticated, man.
Yeah, it does.
Well, if you think,
But
about
I
it,
mean, even today, but the peoples of those parts of the world, even back during those days, were magnificent architects.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be
and
surprised.
mathematicians, they do not get
Yes.
the Middle East does not get its fair due on how.
It really doesn't.
I mean, the Roman not Roman the numbers that we use, they're Abrahamic numbers.
That's their system,
1, 2,
yeah.
0, 1, 2, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. And also, I think it's because I might be talking on my ass here, but I think that's because of them that we had 60. It was base 60 or base 12. Was that base 12 or base 60? Which I think is what empirical measurements are based on. So I think it's maybe 12. Again,
I don't know.
I'm pontificating here, but that's why we have 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour, and that's why. And then because of that, we have a 24-hour day. That's where that comes from.
Wow.
From I'll say from the Middle East. I can't remember which country. Obviously, I'm talking about something I know very little about. And, I'm not going to pretend I'm passing this off as absolutely, but I'm very sure what I'm saying is generally in the right ballpark. But yeah, God, is there anything else you guys want to add about this film?
Just maybe briefly talk about the music. Harry Gregson Williams. I think he's a very underrated composer.
Facts.
He's not like a household name. I would think, but he's done quite a few. He's probably done more Ridley Scott films than anybody.
Yeah.
And I think he's an excellent composer. He's done a lot of work over the years. He just doesn't have he's not famous like Hans Zimmer or John Williams or anything, but
He's definitely up there, bro.
And I'm not saying he's as good, but he's
Goldsmith or
much better than I think he's given credit for, I would say. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight that a little bit.
no,
It's
absolutely. Like
needed.
hearing those sort of those Greek Middle Eastern stringed instruments.
Oh,
I've heard
they're
those
so
things in real
good,
life.
dude.
I've heard authentic sort of. Well, it's mainly Greek. I've heard, but obviously that sort of thing is going to have spread very easily across there. Because that authentic music has changed very little from any of those cultures. It's probably going to be exactly what you heard 1,000 years ago. It really would be.
Some of my favorite music is like from an Egyptian or like desert like area, like in movies in particular. But when I hear certain music that just comes from these areas, I'm like just engulfed with like it's great stuff, man. Like the Mummy soundtrack, for instance, that shit since I was a child was fucking amazing. But Prince of Persia, another great soundtrack. But any of that desert areas, you got me hooked, man. This composer.
I've never watched Prince of Persia, but I've listened to the entire soundtrack. I think at one point.
Yeah, it's banger,
So,
bro. It's a fun movie.
Quentin would
It's fun.
probably, and I actually just saw it for the first time barely recently, like within the past year. But Lawrence of Arabia has very good music when it pops up, and it probably has one of the most famous theme tunes to it,
Yeah.
like the main theme.
1962.
Yeah,
Yep.
and Quentin, I bet if Quentin heard it, he probably would say that he's heard it before. 'Cause
I
it's
wouldn't
quite a
be
famous tune.
surprised.
I heard it a bunch of times. The main theme, anyway. I heard it a bunch of times before I even saw the fucking movie.
Interesting. I'll check that out, man. I just watched Hidalgo not that long ago. It's the Viggo Mortensen movie. I don't
Is
think
that
it
any
has.
good?
I enjoy it, but I don't like. I think you're gonna have a lot of problems with it, but I really enjoy it. It's basically like Viggo Mortensen goes on this long horse race because he was a great horseback rider in America. He's like, I don't want to fucking do this, and they're like, dude, you have to. It's like this is me and my horse's last ride together, but it's pretty epic. You get some good sword fighting. There's definitely some like the Muppet Reader is going to be high, but I think you'd enjoy it, truthfully.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
still Vigo.
Well, anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Besides Orlando Bloom's wiener, I think I'm pretty good, man.
We'll let you handle that.
Am I picking next week's
We should probably
movie?
close this out by saying that for anybody who's watching this, that if you ever get around to thinking about watching Kingdom of Heaven, I beg you, please watch the director's cut, not the
Facts.
original theatrical cut. The director's cut is so much better.
It's what it was meant to be seen in, from my understanding.
Whose pick is it for next week?
I think it's me.
It's you.
Is it? Okay. Do you have a pick for us? Or?
You did basketball, then it's Quintana.
Okay. I thought it
I got
was
two Well, because I think it was basketball, Tetris. Craig did Tetris. Then we did
Revenge
basketball. Then it was Revenge of the Sith. And then it was this.
Yeah, so it's you.
Okay.
All right. So I got two options for you, gentlemen.
Okay.
All right. We got Paul.
Democracy here.
We got Paul. This
Paul,
is
okay.
Seth Rogen. And
I
you
actually
guys
saw
already
that
seen it?
like a year and a half ago, yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure you've seen it. Simon Pegg and his fucking other half, the new Hagrid. So we got Paul, or we got The Game with Michael Douglas. I'm more privy to The Game with Michael Douglas.
I would rather do The Game.
Oh, no, I have seen it. Sorry.
I've only seen like bits and pieces of it. I never watched it from beginning to end. So.
Very interesting movie.
Yeah. So almost all of it will be brand new to me.
Cool.
I do know the concept of the movie, and it's got Sean Penn and Michael Douglas.
Yep. Sean Penn is enough for me to be like, I'm in, bro. Sean Penn is fucking legendary.
I was thinking, I've never even heard of this, and then in my brain just the very ending of the film popped into my head. So obviously I'm not going to say that, but I was like, oh my god, yes, that's why I just went. Yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to.
It's crazy, bro. It's crazy. I've only seen it with my wife once before. My wife actually told me to watch this, and we watched it, I don't know, 4 years ago. I just remember my mind being like, what the fuck's happening throughout the whole course of the movie. So it'll be fun to kind of dissect that one, I think.
It's definitely. I think it'd be definitely more in Brian's wheelhouse. Obviously, Paul is like goofy comedy.
I like Paul. I like Paul.
It's a fun one, bro. Yeah.
Oh,
it's a good comedy.
No, it is. No, but I'm saying I think this one will be more in Brian's wheelhouse than Paul is.
Yeah.
So I think we should go.
I don't know about that, but I just know I haven't seen The Game, so
that's why I kind of was hoping you'd pick The Game.
Yeah, because I've never seen it. I've just seen like a couple scenes like on their own. Okay. So it's not like I've actually seen the movie. So
it's also cool to. I think it's relatively older, right?
And I think it was like a polarizing movie, wasn't it? Like some people loved it, some people hated it.
Yeah, it's very mixed. 1997. 1997.
Okay. I was thinking it was like early 2000s. I guess I was wrong.
To be fair, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
97.
Going back to the magical time known as the 1990s.
Going back to watch Triple H. That's what we're doing.
I swear, like, long after I'm dead, I still believe this to this day, that if you go back and look at the history of the 90s, not the 90s, the history of the United States, they will say we peaked in the 1990s, and everything from there was downhill. That's why the truest part of the Matrix is when he gives fucking Morpheus that speech at the end, and he said that's why we changed the Matrix to this, the 1990s, the peak of your civilization. That's the truest part of the fucking whole movie.
Do you know what, a lot of that stands? I mean, maybe it's just because that's when I was like going into it being a teenager. But you know, for us, when like Tony Blair got into office, I know like it seemed like such a changing time in the UK, and like we had like Britpop and Britpop that was just taking over the world. You know, I know it was just good time to be growing up as a teenager. So yeah, I think I'd agree with that. You know, you look at how shitty things were in the 80s, and also how shitty things were in the 70s, and then how shitty things have been since the 2000s. It's probably right.
That's interesting coming from a citizen of the UK because I think the United States 80s is looked upon fondly. 70s not so much, but the 80s is looked upon fondly.
Yeah, but we had afros in the 70s.
But I know
kinda
some of
makes
the
that.
history of the UK now with the 80s, and yeah, it's
It
pretty
was
grim.
Margaret Thatcher. It was under Margaret Thatcher, mate.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the
And that-
people at
and
the
that-
top of society liked it, but everybody else no.
Oh yeah, they
I
did.
need a history
But
lesson on the
and that
UK.
affected everyone. The decisions that she made affected every. It wasn't just, oh well, they're doing this, but that's not really going to affect me. Well, loaf of bread's going to go 5p. That doesn't really affect me. No, this fucked so many. Her decisions fucked so
Hey,
many
question
people.
before we go, because you mentioned Tony Blair. How is he, like, objectively, like, how is he
Looked at.
viewed? Yeah,
It was a war criminal, pretty much.
that makes me happy.
Yeah, it's
Just
he's
because,
not
even because I think he is, it's just because he buddied up with the guy I hate the most, George W.
George W.
But,
Bush. George W.
not a-
Bush.
Yeah.
Is it because he planned the
not a
Twin
fan.
Towers?
Well, I'm
The
very
amount of people-
anti-war, and who started all of them?
Yeah, the amount of
Facts.
people who died over lies, and
Exactly.
he was complicit in everyone from here who passed away. Here's a weird thing for you. Well, especially considering where I used to live, which is about 7 miles that way. He was. If I went another 5 miles, just slightly northeast, a small place called Sedgefield. That's where he was. That was his constituency before he became MP. So PM. That was his constituency, Tony Blair's. And there's my mate Tom lives maybe about 15 miles that way. My mate Tom lives there. That's where that was Rishi Sunak's constituency. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, which is just
Well,
crazy.
I feel like he's hated by all of you. Even though his time was pretty brief, but goddamn. Anyway, well, that's our Kingdom of Heaven review, and that was a good one. I really enjoyed that one. And yeah, if you're still watching this, please go watch the director's cut, not the original.
Facts.
Director's cut is so much better. Anyway,
you said
Masterpiece, in my opinion.
yes.
You said the original was, I think at the start, you said it was 144 minutes. This one, it's just over 3 hours. But
3 hours 15.
It was my version was like 3 hours 10, I think, but that included the.
Did you miss out on the part where Elon came in?
Oh, stop it!
Shut up.
I'm not gonna guess.
But
Where
no,
Mel
it is
Gibson fucked the syphilis troll.
Soon. All right, we gotta go, folks. Quentin's trying to be evil before we go. So.
he's trying to derail something that's already been derailed.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So let's get out of here. Go see the Kingdom of Heaven, the director's cut, or stream it or whatever you have to do. It's a good one. All right, we're out of here. We'll see you next time.
Later, guys.
There we go.
Still going.
That is weird.
We are still going.